You need to understand something. Right now, in every single conversation you have, there is a silent war being fought. It's a battle for pressure, for status, for control, and most people never even see it. They feel it. Oh yeah, they lose it, but they never ever understand the rules. They just walk through life getting pushed and pulled and manipulated, and then they call it a difficult conversation. It's not, it's a war. And today, you are going to learn how to see the battlefield. I want you to really think about that question. I mean it. That deep, instinctual discomfort you feel when a conversation goes quiet, what is that? That urge to fill the space, to say something, anything, just to relieve the tension. Why? You're afraid of nothing, an absence, a void. And that fear, that simple primal reflex, is costing you power every single day. See, you've been trained your whole life to ignore what is left unsaid. You've been taught that power is loud, right? That influence is all about having the best argument. Well, that is a complete lie. And it's a lie designed to keep you distracted while the real game is being played somewhere else entirely. Here, we don't deal in comforting lies. We decipher the hidden truths. We're here to awaken you to reality as it actually is. Okay, let's really get into this. Every single human interaction you have, I don't care if it's in the boardroom or the bedroom, it operates on an invisible social contract. It's a set of rules that were never explained to you, but you are being judged by them constantly. Most people will go their entire lives without ever reading this contract. They just feel the consequences when they break it. You ever get that feeling where interaction just feels off? It's not some vague, mystical feeling. Believe it or not, there's a science to it, and it's called expectation violations theory. This is the psychological framework that explains exactly why an interaction feels right or wrong. It's why people will either instantly trust you or distrust you long before their logical mind has anything to say about it. It's the code running in the background of all human connection. And the cost of not knowing this code? It's staggering. Every time you violate one of these unspoken expectations, maybe you interrupt a little too soon, you stand a little too close, your tone doesn't quite match your words, you don't get a warning memo, no. Instead, a little piece of trust is silently eroded. A little bit of your influence just vanishes. And over time, these tiny violations are exactly why relationships, deals, and entire careers mysteriously fall apart. And right here, this is the turning point. You can spend the rest of your life as a victim of other people's unspoken expectations, constantly guessing the rules and getting it wrong. Or you can become the one who controls the field. You can learn to expect nothing. And in doing so, you stop being reactive. You become the one who sets the terms of engagement. So we have to completely reframe what silence is. It is not an absence of communication. It is the most powerful, active, and deeply misunderstood communication tool that you can possibly wield. Think of it as a strategic weapon. And guess what? Most people are absolutely terrified to even touch it. So the really crucial part is understanding why this works so well. When you go silent, you're actually leveraging the flaws in the human mind. You create this intense cognitive pressure because the brain has an obsessive need for closure. It just can't stand an unfinished loop. This generates anxiety and suspicion in your opponent. They immediately start asking themselves, what do they know? What are they thinking? It literally forces them to fill the void. And in doing so, they reveal their entire strategy, their fears, their weaknesses. Just think about any high-pressure tactic you've ever faced. Artificial urgency, an emotional appeal, a fast-talking sales pitch. They all rely on one single thing, momentum. They're designed to overwhelm your rational mind by just keeping you off balance. Well, strategic silence is a wall of concrete right in the path of that momentum. It completely breaks their rhythm. It denies them the reinforcement they desperately need. The manipulator pushes, and you give them nothing. The entire tactic just collapses under its own weight. And look, this isn't just theory. It's a protocol. First, you have to master the 3-second rule. When someone pressures you, you just count to 3 in your head. It will feel like an eternity to you, but it signals thoughtfulness to them. Second, you pair your silence with open questions. You ask something like, what would make this work for you? And then you wait. Third, watch the room. The nonverbal data that surfaces in that quiet moment, that's the truth. And fourth, de-escalate with quiet. When tension rises, what's your first instinct? To talk more? You have to do the opposite. A simple pause can recenter the entire dynamic. Now, this brings us to a core truth that most people will just never grasp. Real authority isn't projected through words. It's not something you perform. It is radiated through your internal state. Your presence in a room speaks more loudly and more honestly than any title or argument you could ever make. Just look at this contrast. Performance, that's the desperate, hurried attempt to convince somebody of something. It's over-explaining, it's seeking approval, it's using intensity to try and force a point. And you know what? It absolutely reeks of insecurity. But presence is a state of being. It's that calm steadiness when you're under pressure. It's the restraint to say less. It's emotional clarity. The person who is performing is trying to manage the room. The person with presence is the room. Just let that sink in for a second. The moment you have to declare your own authority, you have already lost it. True authority is granted. It's not claimed. It's recognized by other people when they feel a sense of stability and safety in your presence. Any attempt you make to announce it just signals neediness, and the room immediately stops listening for truth and starts listening for a threat. So here's the bottom line. People are not listening to your words first. They are reading your nervous system, your microsignals, the rhythm of your breath, the little bit of tension in your jaw, your posture, are constantly broadcasting your internal state. And these signals, they arrive as a feeling in the other person. And only then does their mind build a story to justify that feeling. Your words, they're just the decoration on top of the truth you've already transmitted. All right, now we have to turn the lens inward. We need to understand the deep-seated reason why you, and literally everyone around you, instinctively say no. Resistance isn't some personality flaw. It's a predictable, hardwired survival mechanism. And if you don't understand it, you will trigger it constantly without even knowing. The clinical term for this is psychological reactance. And what it is the immediate reflexive resistance that kicks in the moment a person feels their freedom of choice is being threatened or compressed. It's not about your idea, it's about their autonomy. So when you push, their nervous system doesn't hear your logic. It hears a cage door closing, and it will fight back with everything it has to protect its freedom. Let's just dismantle a common lie right now. You've probably been told that applying urgency gets things done. It doesn't. Urgency signals to the other person's nervous system that you care more about your speed than you do about their consent. It turns their uncertainty into a feeling of threat. And a brain that feels threatened stops thinking and starts defending. And just like that, you're no longer having a conversation, you're in a fight. And here's another lie that keeps people weak. The need to control a situation, to tighten timelines, to narrow the options, that is not a sign of leadership. It's a sign of internal discomfort. It is an external attempt to self-soothe your own anxiety. And people feel this instantly. They don't see a leader, they see someone who isn't stable enough to handle reality as it actually is. This right here, this is one of the most critical psychological insights you will ever learn. When people get defensive, when they resist you, they are not arguing about the facts. The facts are completely irrelevant at that point. They are defending their self-image from what they perceive as a threat. Their sense of being competent or good or in control has been challenged, and their entire cognitive function will now be dedicated to protecting that identity. If you keep arguing the facts, you are fighting the wrong war. So, let's bring all of this together. What we've been talking about, this isn't some collection of tips and tricks. This is the fundamental blueprint for how to construct social reality. This is the architecture of influence. Understanding this is the difference between being a pawn in someone else's game and becoming the architect of your own. This is the highest level of this work. We started by talking about silence as a weapon, right? But in its most elevated form, it becomes something else entirely. It becomes the bedrock of absolute trust. It's that rare, beautiful moment when all the performance finally ends. It's the sound of two nervous systems broadcasting the exact same signal. We are safe. It's the rarest and most powerful state in all of human connection. This is the final, crucial distinction. Do you want agreement or do you want submission? Because they can sound the same. A yes can mean two entirely different things. Submission, that's outward compliance born from pressure. It produces quiet resistance, passive sabotage, and it narrows trust. But agreement, that's internal consent, freely given. It produces autonomous action. The person moves even when you're not in the room. If you need pressure to get a yes, you don't have an agreement. You have a future problem. So now, you've been initiated. You have seen the invisible architecture that governs every human interaction. You understand the psychological code that is running beneath the surface of every conversation. You can no longer pretend you don't see it. The ignorance you once had, it's gone. So you're at a crossroads. You can click away from this right now and go back to living in the fog, reacting to forces you don't understand. Or you can make a decision, a commitment to seeing reality as it is. Hitting that subscribe button isn't about helping a channel. It's a declaration. It's you committing to a life of awareness over ignorance. Make the choice, subscribe, turn on notifications, and join the few who are willing to understand the unspoken rules.